Do you have?
Yep. So let's go ahead and open SQL Server. So basically SQL Server is in Microsoft SQL Server 2008, and this is the SQL Server Management Studio. So when you click on that,
All programs?
no, you will not have it because you have not installed. Please close this one. You just concentrate on here. So let's when you click on this SQL Server Connect button, now do you see I logged in into the system. Okay, guys, can you please put your phones on silence? Okay. So now do you see the database, the containers that we just discussed?
Yes.
So these are all the sample database, the one that we see here. That's one container.
And
so I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 containers here.
And they all have different names.
They all have different names, yes.
But is that under MySQL?
No, this is an SQL server. MySQL is a different database name. This is SQL server.
So basically,
we are not
this
using
server,
this one. We are using this SQL server.
So basically, the server contains 10 tables.
10 database.
10
containers. So I'll have one more container here that can contain one more tables. So table and database.
And then all the database on here.
Table considered like this is a piece of paper where I write everything and I stack them together and put it in a container. I have another piece of paper, another tables, I'll put it in another container. So that's what a database looks like.
So you can have more than that, right?
It could be, yeah. And after one database, let's say I'll show you the database of Connects VM. How many tables are there? Do you want to see? This is even smaller. Sometimes we have 200 tables, 500 tables. This is very slow. This is very limited. If I show you my AT&T database, it's huge. So let's create an empty database first. Right? MyDB. So that's how you go and create a new database.
Database, okay.
Yeah, right? You go ahead, right click on the database, new database. At that time you specify what is the size of this database.
Okay. And then.
So that means how much memory I am going to allocate. Let's say my hard drive is 100 GB. How much space I will allocate to my database? Means if I am going to have a million patient, imagine how much amount of space I will require to store it. If a million patient have at least 30 vitals, imagine how much. It's 30 million records again. So I will require more database. So let's give a name database ktrainings db. Right? So right now I'm giving an option where unrestricted growth. That means the more I enter, it will keep on occupying my empty space from my disk.
Instead of giving it a number to just store that much.
So it will create an empty database here. Do you see a ktrainings db is created? And right now we do not have any diagrams and no tables.
So when you make this file, it will automatically come up with the database diagram and table?
No, it will not. You have to create.
What we have, or
Yeah, whatever you have right now, these are empty things.
Okay.
The tables means it's a collection of tables. Views means it's a collection of views.
You have to go create it.
You have to go create them.
Did you do that just now, or it was
No,
already?
this is all an empty collection of categories.
Okay.
So now we'll create one more table under that. So it will add this employee table here.
Okay.
Then we'll create one more table for a salary. Okay?
So you go to tables, you click tables, and then
Yeah. So you go to click and right click on new table.
okay, you make a new table.
New table. Then you have to define these names, right? These column names. What do you want to store first?
So ID.
Yes, right? So let's go ahead and do that. ID, employee ID, and what is the number? It should be numeric, right? Numeric, and it should be 5. That means it will be of size of 4. that means it can have only up to
Four.
4 digits. 4 digits. So it can hold employees of total as a 999.
What data type is numeric? You're saying only 4, so
So that means this number 1, 2, 3, 4 can
Should be
grow up to 999.
it could be 4 numbers instead
4
of just
numbers.
1.
Yes.
Okay. What if it's less?
Then it means if it's less, if you define because you want to optimize the amount of space that you give to the database.
So it's saying minimum is 4, but if you want to just
So you
use
need
1,
to calculate. You need to understand how many employees you are going to store in your tables. That means how many patients you are going to have. So they talk to the data hospitals. They find out how many patients you will be on an average. They say 1 million record is the maximum.
Mhm.
So based on 1 million, it requires 8 digits. So you specify 8 digit over there,
Okay.
right? So that's where you define the size. Let's say if I put here 20, create an employee ID here
When you say
with the
20,
20
is
size.
that
That means it can hold
20 letters or
20
numbers?
numbers, right?
Okay.
So it could be 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 this many 20 up to 20. Let's consider a second opportunity. First name. How much would be the length of an average American first name? What is the first name?
6.
6 digit, right? So on a safer side, we keep as a 10. So let's say create first name
10.
of size 10 letters, 10 characters.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and create that.
So first thing is the employee ID.
First name, what is size 10?
Okay.
Then you go ahead and create last name.
Which is also, we can make it 10 or whatever.
Yes.
So when you click enter, it just
Yes, it just add one more column.
Okay, that I understand. And then with the numbers are ID 1, 2, 3, 4.
Mm-hmm.
What's this 9999?
The 99 means we define the total length of that thing.
Numbers.
Numbers.
Okay, like that.
It can be any number? Or it should
No,
be
there is a limit
999?
for each thing.
Remember he was saying the bigger you make it, more space
is it
it
like-
allows. If you're having
Yeah,
a
but then it
middle-
does like
Alphabet,
why?
like the first name.
just number
So what I'm
4,
trying to say
just
here is
enough space.
The
You
total
can put
length
one,
of this number
let's
should
say-
be 4. This should be 10
like,
character,
instead of
right?
saying
The
1,
first
you
name.
want to say
This
1,
should
1,
be also
1.
10 characters.
So you
This
can
should
do
be
up to
30 characters, and state would be of 4 characters,
Okay.
right? So the length of that, the total number of characters it can hold. You're going to determine what will be my total size of an employee. If I put 50 in this one, my tables will grow like this, and it will use that many space in my memory.
Determine the size of the
Size of the columns.
Okay, that makes sense. Right.
It can hold up to
And
4
then
digits.
what is allow nulls?
Allow nulls means an employee ID can if you don't put, we'll come to that point, but the idea here is to understand is the employee ID cannot be null at any point of time, otherwise how will you find out? If you go to a school, you will have a roll number, otherwise how the school will identify you,
Okay. Okay.
right? A student ID would be there
Okay.
if you go to student.
And the next
yeah.
line would be last name and the same
Last
thing.
name. So let's define the rest of the columns, then we enter manually the values. First name, last name, characters, then what was that? Address. Right.
State.
And then what we need to,
Can you put the address under the state, or I mean, you have to make another one, or it doesn't matter?
sometimes when you fill up your Yahoo registration email or Gmail registration, they ask you to write address,
And then
complete
state,
address,
and
then
zip
state, and
code.
then the zip code, or sometimes city is a separate field
Yeah.
when you register.
It's
So
better to search it.
yeah. So when somebody wants to find out how many employees I have in Hurden, Virginia, so they can search it on that filter criteria itself as in Hurden.
Instead
So
of
they'll
doing
find
the whole thing.
yeah, right? So when I say save file, where is it? Save table 1. So it will ask me what should I give the name of it. So it's employee table. So do you see now an employee table has been created here under the table section,
Right.
right? So now create
Salary.
Yeah. Let's open how does the table will look like after we created that. We define the columns.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's open it. So for that the option is edit for top 200 rows. The table could have 1,000,000 rows. So let's edit the first top 200 rows.
You can't just double click and open it? You have to
No, it doesn't open it like that. So do you see right now we don't have any values there. You see? So now let's add one record manually. One Pritesh Patel Hardan VA. Correct? When I say enter, it entered one record in my. So when I say record means one line.
And then the thing you clicked on said 200, so it can pull up to 200 at a time?
Yeah, so if I have 500 records, it will show me only
200.
200, yes.
Okay.
So let's say,
selected to only view the 200 rows, right?
yeah, because sometimes you just want to see what the columns look like. You don't care about data. Let's say if you want to find out what the data is, then I'll show you how to find exact data out of it. So this is for you to understand, and when I say enter, it will store it. You don't have to go ahead and save the file for this one. The moment you enter, it will update that one more record there. Right? So now let's create a table salary. So now you guys can guide me. What should be my column names?
Paycheck ID,
Correct.
and then the same thing for the space, right? Could be 4,
4.
because we did the first one for 4.
Okay.
Then should be salary,
So salary should be
1,000.
numeric. No, we are defining the column.
Oh yeah, so it would be numeric.
It would be the numeric. This is called data type. What kind of data you will store in your database? So let's find
It was on
numeric. And what is the length of the salary? Are you going to pay 6-figure salary or
6,
No, 6.
not 10.
you can say 8-figure, right? Let's say a CEO is with an 8-figure salary.
Then it would
What
be
about the
department.
second thing? Department. Okay. Department. What's the data type of it?
4.
Character. No, what kind of values you are going to store? It would be a characters. Right? It's not going to be a number. Sometimes some companies have data type as a number. With department will have the department ID depending on the table size. So for an example, let's understand that this is character and where care. I'm sorry? And where care.
Probably 4.
Characters. What's the
Yeah.
other first part?
And where care. Let me. Is there any way to maximize this font, or everybody can read this thing? Can everybody read this? No. What I'm trying to say is, can customize text editor. This one we cannot. We will when we do the query here. We will do that. Okay. So now department. The fourth column should be
Month.
month, right? Let's say 10.
Question. When you putting in these numbers for the space, can you go back later and change it if you wanted to make it bigger?
No, that's the problem here. Once you create a table and once you enter the records here, once you enter the values here, you cannot change it.
So then what do you
This
do
is a
with that?
tricky question. An interviewer will ask you, if I have to modify one of my values, with the size of my column, what should I do?
So didn't you say that you can go insert, update, select, and delete?
So you have to make a new database?
New table, copy paste everything from there to here.
So you can't just edit it. Basically, you're saying you just you might make another one with the same thing.
Same thing, and copy the data from there to here. Let's say you want to change you want to add a city here instead of address.
But is it happening?
Yeah, and this is a very good interview question. Interviewer will ask you that if my table has 4 to 5 columns, if I want to add one more column, can I do that? So you should say no. Once the table is created and if the table has the data, you cannot update the table.
Who is
Usually-
creating the tables? It's already in the
Database
system?
designers, it's already.
Usually
So we don't have to